review of Thomas Shelby's character in Peaky Blinders. Thomas Shelby is the most popular villain in the history of cinema. The strange character that we want to talk about in this episode of Scene Psycho channel. So join me to travel to the deep layers of the character of this role. Let's go! Tommy Shelby was born in Birmingham, England. Tommy was born and raised in an area with a working class culture and poverty. Railroad tracks, factories, and barefooted workers were Tommy Shelby's most vivid images of his youth. It was in this environment that the character of Tommy and his three victors were formed. Apart from all this, we all know that this movie character and even real characters, each of them has a turning point in their lives, which changes their life. This point for Tommy was like the beginning of the First World War, a bloody war that killed and displaced millions of people and changed the fate of many, including Tommy. When the First World War begins, the Shelby brothers are sent to France with all the ambition and fire to win honor for the country. But then, the unintended events of the War of Ambition turn into a pile of ashes, and that's where Tommy's endless nightmares begin. Before we get into Tommy Shelby's character, we want to look at some of the characteristics of Shelby family where Thomas grew up. 1. Their cover style. The gangster family in the United Kingdom, who dressed well and luxuriously, often wore embroidered jackets, silk scarves, formal waistcoats, leather boots with metal tips, and flat hats known as English hats. All of these are documented and with historical evidence. But the fact that the edge of Shelby's hat had a blade with which they blinded the eyes of the opponents doesn't have a strong historical document, and it is said to be creation of the mind of the director and the author of this work. The members of this gang used to attach disposable razors to the edge of their pointed hats, and during fight, they used these razors to injure their foreheads and eyes. But considering that the Gillette company introduced the first replaceable safety razor system in the United States in 1903, and their first manufacturing plant was opened in Great Britain in 1908, this hypothesis seems false and unfounded. The next thing about Peaky Blinders clothes is that the Peaky Blinders way of dressing is not just about fashion. Rather, it shows a kind of hierarchy and wearing a uniform. This has contributed significantly to the power and uniqueness of Peaky Blinders. 2. Shelby family members. The Shelby family is led by Tommy, the second brother, whose older brother, Arthur, is the nervous personality of the family. Tommy's younger brother, John, is not very intelligent. Tommy's sister is Ada, and another important character in the family is Aunt Polly. Polly Gray ran the family business in the absence of family's three older brothers during World War I and kept the Shelby family afloat. He was the cashier for Peaky Blinders. After Tommy takes over, Polly Gray plays an important role alongside Thomas as a wise counselor committed to Peaky Blinders' values. Polly Gray is a symbol of a wise woman, strong and loyal to family values. Tommy Shelby character review. When we look at Tommy Shelby's past before going to France, we see that he, like many of us, played an important role in the formation of his character, the people around him. Yes, it is the people around us who created and nurtured this criminal character. Thomas lost his mother when he was 19 years old. This grief was difficult and overwhelming for Shelby's father. The father, who was from a working class society, didn't have a completely positive and justified personality. He was often away from his family. He rarely spent time with them. If you want to describe Tommy's characteristics in general in a few lines, we should say that Thomas is one of those people who easily kills people for revenge or power-seeking interest. He is the symbol of the basic philosophies of this gang in the life of all family members. In his post-war life, Thomas uses his social position and intelligence to organize power-seeking actions in the Birmingham neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods and even beyond. The most important personality traits of Tommy Shelby. The first characteristic of Thomas Shelby is his exceptional intelligence. Using his strategy and extraordinary intelligence as the head of Peaky Blinders, he not only becomes a high-flying criminal during the story, but also leads his family through many crises and challenges. If we follow the storyline of the series correctly, we can see that Tommy Shelby's character has changed during the story. This transformation of Thomas Shelby's character from a young man who doesn't care about others to a leader with deep feelings and thoughts is one of the great attractions of the series. These changes show human complexity and the impact of life events on his personality. The next thing is his strong addiction to drugs. This aspect of his character portrays a realistic picture of the living condition of criminals in the real world, and it has a historical dimension. Unfortunately or fortunately, one of the main factors of the virality of this series among young people all over the world is the bold visual appeal of Tommy Shelby's drug addiction. In several sequences of the series, we see that Thomas is smoking or drinking alcohol. At the end of the 4th season, Cillian Murphy, the actor who played Tommy, asked the producers of the series how many cigarettes he had used so far during the production of the series. And he came across an interesting number. By the end of the 4th season, Thomas Shelby's character had used 3,000 of those cigarettes. Thomas loved his family. Despite his weaknesses and personal problems, Tommy's love for his family is central to Peaky Blinders. This feature shows emotion and a wide range of human relationships in the story. In Season 1, Tommy and a pretty girl named Grace slowly fall in love. Grace is a young girl who has just arrived in the area and apparently works at the cafe that is Peaky Blinders' hangout. This love grows deeper and deeper and goes deep into Tommy's being, where he has never loved anyone like this before. Thomas was patient. Because of his stressful job and business, he always experienced the ups and downs of life. Sometimes he went to the edge of disintegration, he stood on the edge of the abyss and slipped, but under all circumstances he made decisions based on reason and wisdom and waited. This was his characteristic that distinguished him from other gangsters. In the general view, it seems that mafias and gangsters have less patience due to their power, while Tommy was not like them at all. Another characteristic of him is his self-confidence. Thomas has complete faith in himself and what he wanted to do. This caused him to progress in contaminated business. Thomas was a systematic thinker and set detailed strategies for his goals. Having a detailed plan and regular thinking helped Tommy to make the right decision and survive the crisis at critical times when the family business was facing a crisis. Thomas Shelby was a leader, not just a boss. When someone is a boss, he exercises power with his employees in different ways within the framework of his organization's rules. But Thomas was not like that. He treated those he worked with respect, and all the organizations and people accepted and loved Tommy from the bottom of their hearts as a leader. And the last characteristic of Tommy Shelby, which is very remarkable and effective, is that Tommy stuck to his values and beliefs, even the wrong ones, throughout his life. He adhered to principles in relations to his life and worked and had his own philosophy for doing things. He tried to implement these principles and his mental philosophies in the real sense. In general, Thomas Shelby is a multi-dimensional character who has become one of the most attractive characters in the history of television due to the challenges and evolutions of his life. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of the movie character analysis on Scene Psycho channel. If you have an opinion about the other aspects of Thomas Shelby's personality that we didn't mention, I will be so happy if you leave a comment and mention it for me and the other followers on Scene Psycho channel. And as usual, I would be glad if you give this video a like and subscribe to our channel so that you won't miss any updates. Thank you until the next time. Bye!